Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Selinsky, aka the Running Wine Mom. Today we have a special guest who is not only a talented comedian, but also a hilarious and relatable voice for parents everywhere. Alyce Chan is the creative force behind MomComNYC, a platform where she shares her witty take on the ups and downs of motherhood. From stand-up comedy to viral social media content, Alyce uses humor to connect with audiences and bring much-needed laughs to daily grind of parenting. We're thrilled to have her with us today and hear her journey, insights, and of course, some laughs. So, without further ado, welcome, Alyce.
Hi, Samantha. Thanks for having me. Great intro, by the way. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Well, you are amazing. I love following you, and I love connecting. I love that we connected, and you're just so brilliant. So I'm excited for everyone to hear all about you. Before we get started with who you are, we always start our episodes with our wine, and one of the week segment. This is where we share our favorite bottle of wine, vent about something that has been bothering us, and celebrate our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So Alyce, what is your WINE of the week?
Okay, you're gonna not like me when I do this. Red wine makes me really sleepy. I like chilled wine. I'm not a wine drinker, but if I had to choose, I actually like Prosecco mixed.
Oh, that's okay.
Is that okay? It's not really
of
wine,
course.
but I can have Prosecco, but I like it mixed with like a little juice because I like it very sweet. And I'm not really a drinker. I wish I was, but I have this allergic reaction when I drink, and the alcohol absorbs. A lot of Asian folk, not any of my friends that I know were Asian, but for me and my sisters, we're Chinese. We can't really absorb the enzymes that are in liquor, so we can't be drinkers. Unfortunately. So I can do like one glass of wine, but it has to be. I like Riesling, or Prosecco with orange juice.
Are you? So you put a lot. You're like not the. I just dab my orange juice. That's the person that I am.
You know, those are all my friends. I do like half. My friends think I'm weird, but I'm like, I love bubbly drinks, and I'm like, okay, if anyone's drinking, I can do a little Prosecco with orange juice. I can join.
I love that. That counts 100%.
And what is your win of the week?
My win. I didn't yell at the kids over the weekend. I did. Yeah, and last week when I took them to school, which was Monday to Friday, in the morning, I didn't tell them to hurry up or rush. And we were late, but I didn't make me upset. I guess because I knew that school's ending, so I didn't have so much pressure and showing up on time. So that was my win.
That's amazing, and it's like I feel as though June, that like last week, especially when the kids, you're like whatever. It doesn't matter what anybody looks like when they're going to school. It doesn't matter what we're almost done anyway.
So the light is at the end of the tunnel. Let's just get through this month and summer.
So I always like to ask my guests, what is one significant challenge you've successfully navigated, shaping your journey to where you are today? And what is one accomplishment you're most proud of in life?
I think I have been successful at finding a relatable voice. And the way I did it was really just being true to myself and based on my own experiences. So like, if I'm struggling with my kids this week, I will talk about it, or I will make a skit when I'm in a better mood. Then I'll make a comedy sketch about it. And, a lot of probably like 90% of my content is based on my real life experiences and struggles. And I wanted to be, an authentic voice for all the moms out there, and including dads, but mostly for the moms who are going through the same thing as I am. Stay-at-home moms, or moms working in the office from 9 to 5 or working outside the home. We all have the same struggles, and I'm trying to use my voice to really unite us, to be one voice.
I love that. I love that you're struggling with the things that you share, but they're based off of real life things because they are still relatable. And like the things that the funniest one recently that you posted was about like if adults met friends, like kids met friends, and it was just so funny because you're like, Wait, yeah, how do you meet friends as an adult? Can't you just do what kids do? And we all just agree that's, what you do. And the other one that I just still think about anytime I'm using a paper towel is the paper towel one and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize other people did this as well, where you can't just do one swipe of the paper towel. You have to clean everything up.
Yeah, that's just being conscious about our environment, and we're teaching
Yeah.
our kids how to live responsibly with our limited resources. The friends part too, it's like I've always been awkward making friends since age 6, and then high school was another phase, and now I'm like, now motherhood. Now, how do we make friends as moms now?
Yeah.
And I saw my 2 kids. We were at the beach. They just went up to these other 2 boys, and the first thing they asked was like, "What school do you go to?" Like, and they're not even the same, but we were in this random beach. They obviously don't go to the same school, but they're just like, oh, I'm going to Charles St. blah, blah, blah elementary. How old are you? And then they were just playing. I'm like,
That's
wow,
awesome.
that was fast. And they're like besties now. And one of them's coming over for dinner tomorrow. Like, joking.
Yeah. Oh, I was like, really?
Where my kids have picked up other kids and their moms came along to our house at the end of the beach day. I'm like, well, your kid and my kid are really getting along. You want to come over?
Yeah.
And she felt awkward. I don't think she had anything in common with me. But we were like, well, our kids are having fun.
Yes.
So we sat there trying to have a conversation, but it was really awkward.
Yeah, you're like, so what's your, favorite color? Like, how do you even start a conversation? It's just so interesting. Yeah, well, I am so excited to get more into your comedy. But the Running Wine Mom, we start with a little fitness. What is your favorite way to stay active?
I am reading so much about walking, and I love that because I don't want to exert too much. I used to do so much cardio, and it's really hard, especially now in my state, my fragile state, where I think I am in perimenopause. Reading a lot about that. So I'm reading a lot. Like, if you're in perimenopause, limit your cardio, actually, which is good news to me, and do a lot of weight training. I'm doing a lot of weight training and walking.
Yeah, and walking, I always say, so many of my guests are like, oh, I only walk. And I'm like, no, it's literally the best thing for you. And my grandmom is 87 and I think she still does, but until at least a couple years ago, she was up every morning in the mall walking for 30 minutes. She would walk and she's in great, you would never know she's 87 and I think it's a lot because of walking.
It is. I mean, everywhere whatever I'm reading, it's like walking is the best. Like brisk walking, or even like walking after dinner has so many benefits for your brain, your
digestion.
Yeah, your digestion, and I love that because I'm like, okay, now I don't have to like run a marathon.
Perfect. That's great.
Right.
So how does maintaining your fitness routine contribute to your motivation and understanding between mental health and physical fitness?
I think it's very important that you physically feel good. And, sometimes I eat junk food. I have a blueberry pie in the fridge waiting for me. But everything in moderation. I don't like, saying 100% no to things. I have my coffee, but also balance it out. Like, if I put it this way, when you work out, you never regret working out.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
regret doing that bike ride or the walk or, doing the aerobics class or the yoga class. So I think when I'm in great physical, it releases endorphins. So obviously I'll feel great and I'll have more energy. And then when I have more energy, I'm better with my kids. I'm more patient. Right. And I think it also leads to better creative thinking. And when I'm kind of stuck in a rut, it's usually because I've been stagnant physically.
Yeah, I agree. It gets the juices flowing and the brain going.
Right? Like, it kind of makes sense. Your blood is flowing. You're like going, right? Everything's working again,
Yeah.
Your body and your mind asleep. You gotta keep moving. Never moving. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get a little into parenthood. Tell us about your family.
I have a husband, which I don't know at all. I'm like, Instagram because he is not on social media and he despises social media. And my two boys who are 10 and 7.
Oh,
And we also have a dog and a guinea pig. So
yeah.
we're done.
It's funny you say that your husband hates social media because my husband is pretty similar with like he has it and he'll randomly post like once a year, but and I'm like I feel like it's always like one person in the relationship is like all about social media and the other person is like I don't want anything to do with it.
Yes.
I don't care for it at all.
I respect him for that because I think social media is really junk food for the brain. And I admit sometimes I'm on it. I'm like, why am I scrolling? What am I looking for? And it's like I don't want to do it in front of my kids because I'm telling them limit their screen time. And I know we get dopamine kicks out of it, and that's similar to being a drug addict.
Right.
I have to watch myself. I know that I'm scrolling at nights. Like I woke up at 1:30 last night and I'm scrolling on my phone. And in my head, I'm like, why am I doing this? I know it's bad for me.
It's like an automatic response. You're just like, oh, let me pick up my phone.
Yeah. So I do need to work on that, and I love that my husband's not on it. I think it's for us. I think it's important because we use it for community connection, and it's a great way to promote what you're selling and your services. So yeah, I just have to limit the 1 in the morning scrolling.
It's hard for sure. What do you think you were least prepared for in parenthood?
The sleep. I mean, people talked about it, but I had no idea.
Yes.
People would joke about, I'm like, okay, make sure you do this, and they would give me all these tips. Obviously, all those tips kind of like just didn't even absorb, and I didn't know what to do. And I read books on sleep training. I tried sleep training, and then we tried co-sleeping, and I heard that's not good. And now we co-sleep, and the kids are big.
Oh,
I'm
love
like,
that.
I want to preserve as much time with them when they're still like in that cuddly mode. And like my girl still wants to co-sleep. I'm like, wow, really? Because most 8-year-olds are already like, no thanks. I don't want to be with my mom and dad. So the sleep is better now.
Good.
But it took a while to get here. And sleep during when they were newborn to like 5 years old was really hard.
It is. And I, again, really agree with that because you hear people say, like, yeah, you don't really sleep. And you're like, well, I mean, like, I've stayed up till 2 a.m. and then got to work at like in time.
I went to work.
And you're like, wait, no, this is very, very, very different.
Yeah, you're tired not from partying.
Yeah.
You're like
tired
didn't drain from like every like emotionally.
It's like, and then it's like the rest of it's like the sleep part maybe isn't all of it. It's the everything else. Like you're just, that you're like adding into not sleeping where you're like, what the heck?
Yeah. And then being awakened by like a cry in the middle of the night. Like those things, I'm like, whoa, I did not prepare myself for this at all.
So what do you think your parenting style is?
I love these questions, Samantha. I think I read a lot about conscious parenting and a lot about just trying to be the conscious parent. And I grew up, I'm a Gen Xer, right? And I have immigrant parents who believed in all they did was work because they had to. And we had babysitters, housekeepers to help us with everything else while my parents were at work. So I didn't spend a lot of time with them. I wasn't even read to. And so a lot of things I'm doing kind of are opposites, are things that I did not have that I want to give to my kids. So I sometimes I overcompensate and I play with them too much because I'm like, mom guilt sinks in. I didn't spend time with them, so now I'm going to play hide and seek, and my husband, we're different, right? Because he's like, why are you rallying them up at 8 p.m.? No worries.
You're my husband. You're my husband.
I was like, why are you letting them jump on the bed? Or like, why are you going out for a night at 9 p.m.? You know how dangerous it is. But I feel like I want to just be a kid with my kids, be as silly as possible. I want them to understand that you can be goofy and silly, let your guard down, but also connection. I think at the end of the day, I want to know if I connected with my kid,
Mhm.
either through play or through just affection or just
Right.
listening to them.
And you're really getting so much from that too, like everything you didn't get from your parents, even though you're doing it for your kids, like you're getting that back too in so many ways that like,
It is.
yeah, so that's
Probably, I feel like it's healing my inner child when I
right.
do, do that, and I see the benefits, and I see,
Yeah.
like, when I validate their emotions when they're upset. It really does work. It really
Yeah.
cleanses you, and so I'm like, this is the way to do it. It's
Yeah. It's important and kids need that. They deserve that and you're doing a great job with it. So besides conscious parenting, what is one piece of advice you'd give other parents?
I think just be really silly with your kids. Let them see your silly side, playful side, because I think we all have our inner child, and as adults, society wants us, or we feel the pressure to feel like we need to be so composed and well mannered and well spoken. But we all want to feed our little child, our 4-year-old, 5-year-old child. And I think you should let your kids see that side of you.
Yeah. I love that. I also teach health and fed, and my signature in that, the quote is, "We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing."
I
And I
love
just think, yeah, that is something.
Oh, I love that. Can you put that on a t-shirt? I
Yeah.
that.
Yes, I can. I will. It's definitely something, that I, as a phys ed movement person anyway, in general, like people, like you just said, they get to this point in life where they're just like, you can't be fun anymore. You can't do this. You can't do that. You have to be an adult. But really, the play keeps us young,
Yes.
which
And
is
you know
important.
where you can easily see it? It's on the dance floor. You put the
Mm
music on and you see who just goes wild on the dance floor. That's a person just letting go.
hmm. Mm hmm.
And my mom till this day does not dance. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, she's missing out on so much. She laughs when I dance but I'm like, my mom needs to dance.
Yeah.
By the end of this year, I'm gonna get her onto a dance floor.
Yes.
Or maybe take her to a club or something, get her to
Yes, take her to the club and see how she let the music get in her veins.
I think once she feels it, she'll be like, "Oh my gosh, all this time I could have
Mhm.
been like crazy, silly, and goofy, and letting out my wild side."
Yes, I love that. So let's get into you. Can you tell us a bit about your journey into comedy and really what inspired you to start MomCom NYC?
Yeah, I've always loved comedy. I've dabbled in acting and improv, and then I did stand up comedy, which I totally fell in love with, and that was really my passion. And I really thought it was just a hobby. I had a 9 to 5 office job. And so after that, I would go to a bar and do open mics and maybe get a show here and there, like a gig. And then I became a mom. I stopped doing the open mics because it just felt really uncomfortable performing in an underground bar in New York City with 20-year-old men not
Mhm.
laughing at your jokes because they don't think a pregnant woman's funny. So I felt like, okay, what am I doing? I questioned myself and I stopped doing comedy. And then I focused on being like, okay, I need to be the perfect mom. So I did a lot with the baby. It was just like baby and me yoga classes, baby and me sing along classes. And I think I felt really depressed and I felt like I wasn't me anymore. And I started to dabble on creative stuff like graphic design. I went back into my design phase, my marketing freelancing job, but I still wasn't fulfilled. And then I had my second child. And that's when I was like, you know what? I'm going to go watch a comedy show. It's been 4 years. And I watched a comedy show and it elicited some very strange feelings, like familiar feelings in me. And I told myself I need to go back into comedy. But at that point, I'm like, who's going to put me on stage? I'm a mom. No one wants to hear about mom stuff. And that's what I thought.
Mhm.
And so I didn't get any gigs. Producers didn't want to hire me. There's tons of comedians in New York City that they can hire. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to produce. When you can't get hired, you do it yourself. And so I
Mhm.
started producing a show but also had my newborn with me, and I had a toddler in school. I was a stay-at-home parent. So I did a 10:30 a.m. baby comedy show, and I called it BYOB, Bring Your Own Baby. And this was a safe haven for all moms who had newborns, who were on maternity leave, who didn't know what to do with their baby, but needed adult interaction and maybe needed to have a laugh.
Mhm.
They were all comedians from pro shows. They were all pro comics, and they were all happy to do it, because what else would a comedian be doing at 10:30 a.m.?
Right.
They're always available. So it worked out great. We did it for 2 years in Brooklyn, and it became just like automatic. And I felt so fulfilled because I knew how hard it was to be a mom, and especially
Right.
a new mom, and how alone you could feel sometimes. And I created a small community using comedy. And I think after when the pandemic started, I couldn't do that anymore. So the live comedy stopped. And I found Instagram. I was like, what's this? Oh, it's Instagram. And then I just started posting on Instagram. And lo and behold, I didn't know there was a community on Instagram as well. And a very
Right.
supportive one.
Motherhood, you just have to laugh or you'll cry all the time. And having that connection is
I
just,
just like run out of tears. I'm like, you just have to laugh at it.
yeah.
Me and everything. Otherwise, you'll go insane.
Yeah. Can you walk us through the process of how you develop your new comedic material?
Yeah. I've always wrote jokes for my on stage performance. And for Instagram, it challenged me to write my jokes
Yeah.
and you got to fit it to a 1080 by 1080 square. So in a way, it helped me write better, to
Mhm.
eliminate fluff words, to get to the punchline quicker.
Mhm.
So I started doing that, and I'm like, oh, I'm really enjoying this, because one day I'll be back on stage and I can use these memes, I guess, or these quotes as jokes. And then somehow I have to mention her, Misty from Snarky Breeders. I was at 400 and she was well above that. And she messaged me. She's like, hey, do you want to do a share group? And I thought this was like a tactic to steal money. And I was like,
Right.
who is this person? But she was legit. And I was invited to a group of parents who had a huge amount of followers. And we all shared each other's quips and memes. And quickly I grew from that supportive community. And then Scary Mommy noticed me and asked me if I could, provide them with memes or videos. And then that's when I started to work with them. And really, it was just me being true to myself. It's like, what do I want to talk about? What do I want to relate to other moms with? And what struggles did I have? Like, oh, yesterday I was mad at my husband because he couldn't find something. I'm going to do a skit about that. And then it's therapeutic. And then I'm like, I'm not annoyed anymore.
That's great. So you're, getting all of it. You're getting your therapy and you're helping everyone else too. They don't know that.
Free therapy. And I'm like, oh, I'm saving a lot of money.
So it's been about 4 years that you've been growing the Instagram part of it. How in that phase, your kids have been in very different phases in 4 years, which to an adult maybe isn't a lot, but to a kid it's huge. So how has their growing kind of influenced you to grow around being a comedian, or just to kind of take what they do into your comedy?
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, it was a lot about jokes about not getting sleep
Mm-hmm.
and picky eating. And so like a lot of baby and tantrums. And so there was a lot of jokes about tantrums and like who had the biggest tantrum, me or my baby today. Or like I joked a lot about how moms had to wake up at every hour of the night, but dads didn't. And so there was a lot of that. Or like the messy mom, disoriented mom, because I'm taking care of 2 kids and my husband comes from work. So now it's changed to like, my kid is talking about the birds and the bees. What do I do?
Yes.
Or my kid, I said I love you at school, and he goes, can you leave? Like, so now it's like kind of more like tween kind of content. But also I have my 7-year-old who's still my cuddly baby. and he will say the funniest things. And so I also have that aspect. So I
Right.
feel like I'm in a very sweet spot right now where they're physically very dependent, but also they still need me around. They still want to play with me. So a lot of the content is really watching them. Like, for instance, like making friends. I saw how they made friends. I'm like, that's a great, that inspired me to do a skit on making friends.
Right.
There's always,
Yeah.
no matter how old they are, there's always going to be fresh material, which is great.
Yeah. And I love that perspective too, because I find that I think a lot of people have the most problems with the like preteen, teens, and just like trying to figure out who they are as kids. And I teach 7th through 12th grade. So I see them like, every day with being up and down hormonally and just, all of that. So the comedy is needed in that area because the parents are like, my kid hates me. What do I do? So you got plenty of comedy to
I
go.
feel like it's more necessary. And, a
Yeah.
couple years ago, I was like, what am I going to do? My kids are growing older. I can't talk about tantrums anymore.
Right.
But now I'm like, oh, wait, there's a flood of content there that parents are struggling with. It's a really hard phase. So, like, you're teaching 7th through 12th grade.
Yeah. It's just an interesting. I'm like, I feel as though no one can hurt me in any way because I'm like, these kids can be. I mean, they're very great too and wonderful, and I love doing it, but they're also very mean, and you're like, okay, I guess have a good day. I don't know.
I wasn't the mean kid, but I saw the mean kids from 7th to 12th grade.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'm like, I can't believe you just said that to the substitute teacher or to our teacher. Like, how can you do that? So I don't know how you do it. So
it's difficult, but I am summer now. So now I'm like, summer Sam is here, and that's why you need a summer as a teacher to kind of refresh and restart. So who are some of your comedic inspirations?
Well, the classic, I love Jerry Seinfeld because he can turn anything into like a 45-minute satire and just be funny.
Right.
Jim Gaffigan, I love his clean humor. He always talks about food and parenting of 5 kids. Like, he's just really funny. I like Ali Wong. I think
she's great.
Raw, and she's not afraid to speak her mind. And even in front of her mother-in-law, she'll like say stuff, and I'm like, wow, that's brave. And there's Bill Burr. I don't always like his content, but I love the way he crafts his material.
Yeah.
And it's scripted. He goes on stage just with bullet points and he just riffs. And I'm just like,
we've seen him a few times, and he's
like live is so amazing. Netflix only, but he's really,
he's funny. So what advice would you have for aspiring comedians looking to, because I feel as though online is such a big thing and it's a scary thing and it's such a part of today's society, but also, as you said, very helpful for promoting yourself. And what advice would you give to someone who's maybe, whether they're in parenting or not?
Yeah. No, I think that's a great question. I think online comedy, it does seem scary, but it's not as scary as live comedy because you can edit out anything and you can put it out there if you want or not put it out, and you could take it down if you don't like it. And so in the morning, I was actually going through my feed. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this a year ago. Cringe, and I just deleted it.
You're like,
see some videos. I'm like, this has very low engagement. This obviously sucks.
Right.
And I didn't like how I sounded here. I don't think I sounded authentic, so I deleted. So I think comedy, you have to put yourself out there and keep putting yourself out there until you find your voice, and you'll know it, you'll feel it, and you'll be like, oh, I'm really proud of this. And you could tell because you're like, I'll watch it. I mean, the ones that people probably don't know this, but the ones that I think are really funny and authentic, I'll watch it and I'll be like, oh, so good, Alyce. I
love that.
Yeah. And that's how you can tell, like, you did a good job. But there are some that are so cringy. I'm like, ew, Alyce, ew. And so, but the wonderful thing about online comment is you can edit or take it down if you don't like it. So
Right.
don't be scared. Put it out there. If you don't put it out there, you won't know. And it's an exercise. It's a workout muscle. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it.
And I think you have to have some of the cringy stuff out there too, that you just like doing it just to be like, okay, this didn't work, or
Yeah,
maybe it does. You never know. Like
you know,
sometimes you're like, what? This did work? Like
yeah, maybe exactly. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do this, and it takes like 20 seconds. Some reels have taken like a day, and it flops.
yeah.
And
Oh
then
my gosh.
some are like 20 seconds, but it related to somebody and it connected. So as long as you're creating a connection, just keep at it.
Right.
Like you said, Samantha, like if you think it's cringy, put it out there, and it's up to you if you want to keep it up there or you want to take it down.
Yeah, that's so true. That's great advice. And the other thing that I did want to say at the Create Her event, the crowd was obviously a little smaller than what you've performed in, but like your energy and your jokes were just, it was so amazing to watch you do it for like a a very intimate crowd there. And I just thought like that was something that I was so admirable to, just because I'm like, I feel like if I would feel so nervous being around such a smaller group rather than a bigger group for some reason, even though the bigger group seems like it would be more intimidating, but the smaller group is more intimate. And I mean, you were just performing as though it was in front of like, a million people, which I just loved so much about you, to give that out there to people, which
Oh
was
my
really
God,
cool to watch.
Samantha, that did so much to my ego right now because like 7 people there.
Yeah.
Thanks for being the one.
No, I was like, I know, I didn't want to say, I was like, it's very so, like, it was very, because it was the end, and I feel like a lot of people left.
I was like, wait, I think there's 11. Wait, one person
Yeah.
just walked in. My mind was like, okay, that person's walking away. Wait, where's that person going? Okay, this person's paying attention, but she's on her phone. Like,
Right.
and I was told there was going to be a bunch of people. And at the end of the show, they were like, a lot of people heard you. Don't worry. There was a PA system, but they weren't allowed to leave their booths. So at the
Oh,
creator event, I don't know, for some people who weren't there, there are all these booths, and the show was really for the influencers and for content creators and for the people at the booths, the vendors, but they weren't allowed to leave the booths, which
oh no.
so they were listening while they were like just at the booth. It it was, like you said, a lot more intimidating to do it with a smaller crowd versus 100, because when you have like hundreds of people or even like a million, like you said,
Yeah.
you get drowned with the voice, right? Like you could have 50 people laughing and
Right.
2,000 people not laughing, but all you hear is laughter.
Right.
With less than that, you're like really looking at every individual person, and it gets to your head. You're like, why is this person not laughing? Why did that person just walk away?
Right.
You know?
Well, honestly, I am glad that you were thinking that, because not that you were like, not glad that you were, but as I was watching you, I'm literally like, this woman, like, how is she just doing this so naturally? And I'm like, I would just be doing the same things that you said in your mind, but it's but you were, and nobody would have known. Nobody
Thank you.
nobody would have known
I
that at all.
was very nervous. I was very aware, and I was counting everybody and looking at everyone's facial expressions, and that sometimes will let me know what to do next, or like,
Yeah.
well, let's drop that other joke. It's too scripted. People need crowd work right now to get their attention. And then I started to do more crowd work because I'm like, these standard jokes aren't going to hit.
Right. Yeah. And
crowd.
yeah, and that was a great thing too. Again, so cool to hear what you were doing in your mind of like switching up things that you maybe thought were going to go and then didn't, which is very talented. A lot of people can't do that.
Thank you.
So what are your personal goals for maybe the next 5 years besides creating teen and tween content? Where do you hope MomComNYC goes?
Okay, I'm going to manifest, Samantha.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm just going to say I want my husband to quit his job.
Uh,
I want to be the one who is the breadwinner by doing tours, comedy shows, and I want to bring my family with me. And I want to stay in nice hotels, not the ones that I feel like I'm going to get murdered at one of them, which I've done, And I want to be doing what I love and having my family with me while doing that.
I love that. And I hope that comes true very much for you. And manifesting, I'm all into that. And it's you got to be very specific. So you are being very specific with all of your stuff. So I think it's going to come true for you for sure. So you do have a tour coming up. Can you tell everyone a little bit about that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. It starts off in Florida, my first time in Florida without my kids and not heading to Orlando Disney World. So I'll be in Tampa starting July 17th and then Naples July 18th. I have no clue what the scene is in Florida in terms of comedy. And then on my way I'll have August free, and that's going to be visiting my folks in Canada, Vancouver, Canada, with my sister, my cousins, and I grew up there, so my hometown.
Awesome.
Bringing my kids there, and then September, California, the Bay Area, San Diego, doing more shows, and then coming back to the East Coast, DC, Boston in October.
That's amazing. So this is just do you have like a publicist? Is that how you get booked? Or do you just do it? I'm just generally curious about that.
So originally, before July 17th, which is kind of like my official mini tour, I was cold calling clubs asking, hey, can I perform? And send them everything. And out of 10 clubs, one will say, sure.
Right.
And that happened in Boston, in Foxborough, and Laugh Boston. I'm so grateful. And I love Boston. People are so loving and welcoming. But that's what I was doing. And then I have a booker now who will book the shows for me and will tell me, okay, are you good with these dates? And I just say yes.
Yeah.
So I'm doing this mini tour to see how it works out with leaving my family.
Right.
And then coming back to them after a few days.
So cool.
If it works out well, then I'm going to do a longer one.
Wow, that's so cool. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
Well, you have told us so much today. Is there anything that maybe we didn't hit on that you'd like to share or provide with the audience?
I think just be easy on yourself. I think we all tend, especially moms, we have this innate guilt that we have to do everything and be everyone to everyone, and you don't have to. I know a lot of new moms especially have a hard time to physically be away from their children or spouse. And you need to take that time, find a hobby, find something that connects yourself to you.
Right.
Because you're a new person. Once you become a mom, you're finding out all these new things now, even like how to make friends.
Yeah. So. It's so true. And my sister and I went to a concert Saturday night of this small band that we loved when we were 20 years ago, and we both just sung our hearts out, and we just said we just feel like that 18-year-old is still there in us somewhere, because all of the feelings that we felt while singing these songs that we were listening to and finding in our like most vulnerable stages of trying to become an adult, they're still there. And so when you become a mom, it's the same thing. You switch over from this person who's needed all the time, but that pre-kid you is still in there somewhere. You just gotta find it. So I love that. That's great advice.
I love that you did it with your sister and that you were reminiscing the music, because music can do so much to bring memories.
So much.
18,
Yeah.
There's so much going on when we're 18. That's so beautiful that you shared that moment with your sister. I love that. But and I saw a quote that was really sweet and it really made me tear. It said, "Remember, your mom is also just a girl trying to navigate as well." And we often but we forget our own parents. They're still, my mom is still living for the first time.
Yeah.
And sometimes we forget, like our kids might forget about that.
Yeah. We're just people.
Yeah,
We don't know what the heck we're doing either.
I still don't know what I'm doing.
No, I still don't. I know, even though we're supposed to have all the answers. And that's one of the things, that I appreciate. And I'm sure most people do with their parents as you get older, because you're like, wait, how did you even figure out how to do that? And I thought you just knew and
I
you
was like,
didn't.
when we were kids, I was like, my mom knows everything. And now I'm like,
Yeah,
well, she didn't know. She was
she
just
didn't.
wing it.
Yeah.
And then she
Yeah.
still is. She's 70 something. And I'm like, she's still a girl trying to wing
Yeah.
it. Like, what do I do now in my 70s? Like,
Right. Oh, that's such great advice. I love that. All right, so that's a great way to end. That's gonna bring us to the end of another episode of The Running Wine Mom. A big thank you to Alyce for joining us and sharing her hilarious and inspirational journey. Thank you, Alyce, for coming on.
oh, thank you.
And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it. You can also follow me on Instagram at @TheRunningWineMom_. And Alyce, where can the listeners find you?
MomComNYC.
Awesome. And I will link all of that. So thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep laughing, keep sipping, and keep embracing the joy of motherhood. Cheers, and I will be back next Tuesday.